Hong Kong, Wan Chai District, Queen Elizabeth Stadium, November 1972, Saturday afternoon, 2:30. The lower bowl is packed, 600 people seated in curved rows around a raised wooden stage, black curtains behind it, professional lights above, one microphone stand at the center. The morning had already given them a great deal. A 70-year-old Japanese master performing Shotokan kata with such precision that the audience forgot to breathe. A Korean judo team. A taekwondo demonstration with kicks that seemed to belong to a different set of physical laws. Each art received its applause. Each master received his respect. Now it was the afternoon session. The announcer stepped to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, our next demonstration is Jeet Kune Do, presented by Bruce Lee. The applause came fast, louder than before. Bruce Lee was known in Hong Kong, not yet the global icon he would become, but known. People sat up straighter. He walked out. No ceremony, no deep bow at the wings. He simply appeared and moved to the microphone the way someone walks to a window to check the weather. He wore plain dark training clothes, no rank insignia, no school colors. He was 5'7", maybe 140 pounds, and he stood at the microphone and looked out at the 600 faces and smiled. Then he spoke. If a man comes to attack you and he is faster than you, stronger than you, has been training longer than you, what do you do? He let the question sit in the air. Every system has an answer. The master you saw this morning has an answer. The judoka has an answer. These are real answers, built from centuries of thought. My question is different. My question is, what if all the answers are incomplete? He asked a volunteer to join him. A young man in a white karate gi came up from the third row. Bruce Lee shook his hand, introduced him to the crowd, positioned him 10 feet away, and said simply, "Attack me, however you know how." The volunteer threw a right punch. Committed? Practiced? A good punch. It did not arrive. What the audience saw was not a block. Bruce Lee moved into the line of attack, slightly, at an angle, and the punch passed beside him. In the same motion, his left hand touched the volunteer's elbow, and his right hand rested, with complete gentleness, against the volunteer's throat. The whole thing took less than a second. The volunteer stood very still. He understood exactly what had just happened. A student in the front row said one word in Cantonese to the person beside him. The word was, "How?" "That is interception," Bruce Lee said, stepping back. "Not reaction. I did not wait for his punch to arrive. I entered the space before the punch could claim it." He sent the volunteer back to his seat and faced the audience. He talked about water. He used this idea often, but for this crowd it was new, and he gave it slowly. You put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put it in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. It does not insist on its own shape. And yet, given enough time, water cuts through stone. A system that insists on one way of standing, one way of striking, one way of moving, that is a cup, useful when the situation fits. But what happens when the situation is a river? An older gentleman raised his hand. You are saying all systems are wrong? I am saying all systems are incomplete. There is a difference. What you saw this morning was not wrong. It was beautiful. It contained real truth. But it was a cup. I am trying to find the water. He called 2 volunteers this time and placed himself between them. He told them to attack together whenever they were ready. He did not look directly at either of them. He appeared almost relaxed. They moved. He angled toward the one on his left a fraction of a second before that person moved, reading the intention before the body committed to it, used that momentum to carry himself past, deflected the second with his forearm, and stepped through the gap between them. 3 seconds. Both volunteers in front of him now, slightly off balance, having struck nothing. He turned to the audience and opened his hands. I did not fight 2 people. I refuse to be between 2 people. Position is not something you are given. It is something you take, continuously, in motion, with awareness. He sat down on the stage itself, cross-legged, and spoke more quietly for a few minutes. He told them about Wing Chun, about training under Ip Man at 13. He spoke of it with genuine love. Then he told them about America, about fighting in Seattle and Oakland, about meeting boxers and wrestlers and fencers and grapplers, about the moment he realized that what he had been taught, as beautiful as it was, did not have an answer for every situation. A boxer taught me footwork I had never imagined. A wrestler showed me what happens when someone takes you to the ground, and your style has nothing to say about the ground. A classical fencer showed me that the longest weapon reaches first, and this is true whether the weapon is a sword or a leg. He paused. I am not saying I invented something new. I took what was useful. I rejected what was not. I added what was specifically my own. This is not disrespect to any tradition. This is the deepest respect, to take something seriously enough to ask what it has not yet solved. He stood, picked up a wooden board that had been leaning against the backdrop, asked a journalist from the front row to hold it. The journalist came up, held it with both hands, and looked at Bruce Lee with the careful expression of a man who was not sure what he had agreed to. Bruce Lee placed his right fist 6 inches from the surface of the board. No wind-up, no chamber, no dramatic pause. A sound, less like a crack, more like a deep thud, and the board was in 2 pieces, and the journalist was stepping back from the force that had traveled up through his arms. Bruce Lee held up both halves. 6 inches, not because I am strong, because I am fast, and not because I am fast, because I am not slow. Someone laughed. Real laughter. The kind that comes when a sentence says more than it appears to say. For the final demonstration, he asked for someone who trained seriously. A man in his 30s in a judo uniform came forward. They bowed. The judoka attempted a full hip throw, committed, powerful, the kind that crosses a mat like a wave. It did not complete. Not because Bruce Lee countered it in the judo sense, but because he was no longer in front of it. He had moved with the pole, let it carry him a half step forward, and in that half step, the geometry of the throw simply collapsed. He was beside the man now, in a position that had no name in any catalog, that simply happened to be exactly correct for this exact moment. They bowed again. The audience stood up. He returned to the microphone one last time. Every art you have seen today is true. Every master you have seen today has given years, decades, to something real. I am not here to tell you that what you have is wrong. I am here to suggest that what any of us has is not yet finished. He looked across all 600 faces. The martial arts are not a destination. They are a conversation between your body and what you ask of it, between what you have been taught and what reality demands. Keep that conversation honest. Keep it open. Do not close it into a system and then defend the system instead of the truth. He stepped back from the microphone. Thank you for your time. A small bow, not ceremonial, just human, and he walked off the stage. The applause was different this time. Not the recognition of a rival, but something harder to name. The sound a crowd makes when they have watched something they will spend the rest of the evening trying to describe accurately and find they cannot quite do it. The announcer came back to the microphone. He looked at his program. He looked up at the audience. He waited a moment longer than necessary because the room was not ready to move on yet, and he knew it.